As education continues to evolve, so do the questions about how different systems serve students and communities. Understanding these shifts is key to shaping learning experiences that are relevant, inclusive, and forward-thinking. With that in mind, our next session, What's Next for the Public versus Private Education, will explore trends, opportunities, and challenges in both sectors, providing fresh perspectives on how institutions can adapt and thrive in today's world. Please put your hands together for Sarah Hamidi, the substitute teacher and tutor at Silicon Valley International School, and she is going to be joined by Jacinda Walker, founding director of designExplorr. Welcome to the stage.
All right, Sarah, are we ready to have this conversation?
Absolutely. So we are going to be talking about what's next for public versus private education. So I currently work in the private school system because I am a substitute teacher at a private international school. So I teach both in French and English.
Excellent. Well, my name is Jacinda. I'm founder and creative director of an organization named designExplorr, where we work to expose youth to design and design careers. So I've been fortunate enough, I've been educated in public school, and I've had the opportunity to serve as with designExplorr in a public and in a private school setting. So I think this is going to be an incredible conversation. I don't think they could have picked two better people to have it.
No, absolutely. I mean, I actually grew up in the private school system my entire childhood, my entire educational life. It wasn't until I actually went to college that was my very first experience in the public school system.
Wow. Did you think that you would be in that place where you could influence because of your background?
It's a really good, I think it's a really good question. I think, well, for me personally, growing up, private school worked better for me because the classrooms are smaller, and I felt like I had more support. I was the kind of kid who needed a lot of academic support, like hands-on approach and all that. And in my experience, before I actually was a substitute teacher, at the school I currently work at, I was with a substitute agency, and I would be sent to substitute teach in schools all over the Bay Area, charter schools, public schools, private schools. I used to work in one of the toughest school districts in the Bay Area, which is East Palo Alto. So I like to think I want to say I've seen it all, but I don't want to say that because you never know what you're going to experience in the upcoming years in education.
And the very thing that you say that you haven't seen, that's what you'll see tomorrow.
Well, I mean, what I'll say is in the private school system, in my experience, there's a little bit more freedom in terms of the curriculum. Like, they'll set a standard. Like, in the school I work at, it's the IB standard, which is International Baccalaureate. And then they'll tell, there are standards for each grade, and then they'll tell the teachers, here are the standards, but we're gonna give you the freedom to let you teach it how you want to teach it, whether you want to be more interactive with it, more hands-on, give homework. In the public school system, it's very, I notice it's very almost like rigid, like do this, do this, do this. Like when I'm sent to substitute teach in a private school, I kind of have, I'll have the agenda, but they trust me to just look at it and just go with the flow, go with it, and I just do my best. In the public school system or charter school system, it's a little bit different. They're like, you exactly have to do exactly how it says on the plan. So at least that's been my experience.
Excellent, excellent. I think what's interesting about the opportunity to talk about this today is because most of my experience through my personal education has been in public schooling, and so when I got the opportunity with designExplorr to work at private schools, I was just amazed at how much support they had. I once did a workshop in a school. I was doing a workshop for about 40 students. The school had 5 educators there to help me.
Oh, wow.
I couldn't believe it. They were helping me pass out pencils. They were helping me pass out art supplies. They were helping answer questions that I wasn't able to get around to the entire room. They would help jump in and navigate those types of things. Whereas when I've been in public schools with the same 40 kids, I was struggling just to find one or two teachers who would have the time to come in and join me to help or to even know more about the students to help me better connect with them. So I think being able to look at private school versus public school is an opportunity, because I think there are benefits, even though it seems challenging, there are benefits that each system could possibly benefit from, you know?
No, absolutely, I agree with you. Something, I will say a change I have noticed is, I don't know about back in my day when I was in a preschool, because I went to preschool in France, so
Okay.
completely different system. But what I have noticed in recent years is there are actually preschool teacher assistants now in the classrooms, and not just preschool teacher assistants, but also in the kindergarten. And I think that's really good, because now kids have like that extra support in the classroom, not just behaviorally, but also academically. So that is a change that I've seen for the positive. Another change I'll say that I've seen for the positive is when I was in my private school, back at my school, like the school I work at is actually my childhood school. So I was not only a student there, but I also now work there. We had separate desks, like literally this is your desk, like right here, like completely separate. Now in our classrooms, you don't see that anymore. The desks are like, it's one big desk, and you'll have 3 to
People
5
sitting
students sitting all together. So it really kind of encourages more of like that collaboration. Like
Yes.
if I'm giving out math problems to the students and I say, try to do this work by yourself, what I actually see is I'll see students actually collaborating together instead of feeling like, as opposed to feeling very frustrated because they're at a desk all by themselves.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that being able to look at private versus public, we're probably going to see a lot of challenges.
Yes.
Lots of challenges. And I think what we should do is to offer only 3 challenges, because we have decided to take a radical approach, educators. We're only going to talk about the solutions. We already know it's a million of problems we could talk about. We could be here for the next 2 hours talking about all the problems, but we have decided to take a radical approach, and we're going to talk about solutions. So we're going to share a few problems we saw, and then we're going to share what our solutions are and really spend our time in that space. All right, so would you like to take the first problem?
Sure,
Okay.
yeah. So I had the amazing opportunity to be part of the panel yesterday. And also on the very first day. On the very first day, the panel that I was a part of was about positive self-talk.
Okay.
And what we talked about was social emotional learning. So a solution that I have is I want to see more social emotional learning classes instilled in schools all over the nation. I think if we offered kids more social emotional learning tools, it would help manage behavior better in the classroom.
Ooh, good one, good one. The social emotional, and that's definitely something we could see that done in mathematics, English, as well as in art and creative.
It could even be a collaboration. It could be 2 teachers from 2 different grades having both of their students all together talking about it.
Agreed.
How we do it in my school. We have this class called harmonization. You have a first grade class with a second grade class put all together, and they just talk to each other and we all learn.
And we're starting to see a lot of that at the college level as well. There are lots of colleges and organizations who are having their creative classes work on projects and activities with the business classes, right? We're seeing a lot of places where we're working with our creative students to be able to help them in arts management so that they can begin to manage their creativity and to be able to become sustainable, successful, positive, productive, amazing human beings, as well as creative. So that social emotional thing, you're on it. You're on it. Come on, give me your second one. Give me your second one.
My second one is, well, I'm not sure if it's necessarily a solution I propose, but I want to kind of start questioning how much should the government be involved in public schools? Because the way we look at the system right now is that at least from my understanding, is that the government provides pretty much all the funding for the public schools. So like in California, that would be not only the US president, but the governor's job to provide all the funding. And as we're seeing right now, it's just not working out because not only are they cutting funding, but we're still seeing the same kind of like behavioral problems in the classroom. I mean, just this year, the White House announced that they cut funding to special education, which is not good at all. So it's more of a question like, how much should the government be involved? And I think it would be like, if we don't want the government to be as involved in public schools, then who should help? And I think the solution I have to that is we need more it's a conversation we've had, both you and I before coming up here, is more community involvement.
Absolutely.
Like, if we see a bunch of books standing there that we know are not gonna be used, why not give it to another school? Why are we wasting it? Why are we throwing it away? Why not give that to, say, a student too, so that student can study extra during the summer? Why are we wasting so much material?
Yes, I think my first solution, I see this a lot. I have an opportunity to work with pre-K students as well as kindergarten students. And one of the biggest things that I love to see in public schools is when educators are teaching students about the importance of sharing. And they're teaching them not only, I heard a teacher once say, sharing is caring, right?
Yes.
And I think sometimes as we go into these systems, as we go into these schools, it's easy to leave that type of thinking because you're just focused on this thing right here. You're like, share a pencil. Like, I don't have to, like, get your own pencil, right? But remembering some of these characteristics and these behaviors that have sustained us as human beings, I think are just as valuable, and I think they would provide a great opportunity when we start looking at what's next for public and private schools. My second one I want to throw out there before we get the third one, because that's going to be our roundup. My second one is resources. Again, I'm in the creative space, and I've done materials, I've done workshops and events and activities in public and in private again. But when I notice when I go to my public schools, I have to bring everything, papers, worksheets, crayons. If I'm doing an exercise with glue, I have to bring a bottle of glue, like literally. And it's not that the teachers don't want to share what they have, they just don't have it to share. So I think as we talk about solutions, we've got to think better about getting resources. We've got to be able to think better and to think in a more helpful manner to get materials. Where I'm from, we have a couple of centers where teachers have to go all the way over there to pick stuff up. Well, school happens the same time every year, every month. Why would you make the teacher have to go all the way over there in the beginning of the school year? He or she has already got 1,003 different types of things to do. We can't, we can't, Lyft or Uber or, we can't do DoorDash for educators, why can't we pick these? So that's one of the hugest pieces of solutions that I see. We have to come up with a better way to provide educators in both systems resources and materials. All right, Sarah.
Absolutely.
What's your third one?
Oh boy, I
know.
think this is gonna be a very unpopular opinion with parents, but bring back discipline. What do I mean by that? I don't know about you, but when I'm hearing from my fellow teachers on YouTube about what it's like to be in a classroom in the public school system, I'm hearing stories of administrators telling them if they give an F, they're not allowed to give lower than 50%.
Yes.
They're not allowed to do that. If a kid misbehaves, they send them out, but that same kid who has been misbehaving so badly to the point that the entire classroom is out of control, guess what? They bring them back. They bring them back. I can't believe my eyes. And unfortunately, I actually have a story to share about that if you'll allow me to share it. So I used to work in one of the toughest school districts, East Palo Alto. And I used to work at this nonprofit school as a substitute teacher called, it was a school created by the Zuckerberg Chen Initiative. So it was a nonprofit school. Unfortunately, I'm forgetting the name. But we have a PE teacher. And I'm not joking when I say, I know it's going to sound very shocking when I say this, but he was teaching the second grade PE, and in pure anger, one of his students screamed at him the N-word and pointed 2 middle fingers at him. And when he sent the student out, that same student, 5 minutes later, comes back.
Yeah.
And he had to leave. And he didn't come back for a week because it broke his heart. And when I heard that, it just broke my heart. And I started looking online to see if that's just the exception. I'm telling you guys, it's not an exception. There are horror stories like this happening to teachers nationwide every single day. So when I say bring back discipline, I don't mean we need to be super harsh, like screaming at kids or being like, guess what, you're no longer coming back here. No, what I mean is if we have tried every single solution with your child, such as social emotional learning, talking to the child, giving them a timeout, and nothing has worked, guess what, we're gonna give them detention. Or if none of that worked, we may have no choice but to expel your child. We need to bring back that kind of discipline. Constantly showing that gentle love to a child that you know is going to be completely out of control in the classroom does not help. So that's kind of also a fourth solution I have is give teachers more freedom to teach the curriculum the way they want to. They have worked so hard to be credentialed. They have worked so hard at their craft. Why won't you trust them? Give them that freedom to teach the way they want to teach. Let them instill their creative spin in the classroom.
I agree. I think that it is definitely, YouTube is showing us the dark side, right? Like YouTube, and we are getting a full fist of it every day of the challenges that educators, particularly those in the public space, are experiencing. And being able to look at some of these other solutions, which might include bringing some levels of discipline back. I'm sure that, when I was in school, we had discipline. There were consequences, and maybe the lack of educators having the power to implement those consequences are really some of the challenges that you're seeing as a substitute teacher.
It's sad that, as of right now, as we're talking, there's actually a very big teacher shortage happening right now because most teachers right now are quitting in the middle of the school year. That is how bad the problems are.
Agreed. I'm very, very familiar with that. I think the most challenging discipline situation that I had once in a classroom, I usually like to allow students the opportunity to work individually or collectively. So if you want to work with a partner, as long as I have enough supplies, you're welcome to do that. But if you want to work individually, you're welcome to do that as well. But this particular student would not choose either. And there was no support. There was no support. There was no pathway of what would happen if a child just didn't want to do anything. There wasn't even a quiet place for them who had mentioned, like, hey, I need some time by myself. There wasn't even anywhere for the child to go and to do that. And so this child was miserable. Like, I just felt so bad that they had verbalized that they were having a moment, they needed a moment, and there was nowhere for them to go and to have the moment.
I've also had those same situations.
Yeah.
I once taught a third grade class, and I could see just by the look on this child's eyes, he was so tired.
Yeah.
And I felt, there were times I kind of felt helpless because I'm trying to see if there's an adult outside that he can just sit with and just kind of rest and close his eyes a little, but there's no one.
Yeah.
But I will say that working at a private school, I am very, very lucky. I really love what I do. And every day I go to that school, I feel the love, I feel the support. I am always getting encouraging words. That I have teachers who, they don't even have to show up for me. They show up to my classroom and say, hey, everything good? What can I do to help you? And that really touches my heart.
Again, I think that that's why we really want to make sure that we can talk about some solutions, right? The problems are evident and the problems are paramount, but not being able to create a space where we're able to acknowledge the things that are wrong and how can we move forward? How can we talk about what's next? How can we talk about where can we go from these moments? I think those are super, super important. My third one, and I also have a bonus as well.
Yeah.
My third one is allowing creativity to soar. Many times when I've been in public schools, because they are following the standards booklet, because they are making sure that the lesson plans meet these specific kind of bullet points, it's difficult sometimes for students who are having a day, who are having a moment, to be able to keep up or to even be able to say, hey, I'm not in that space today. It doesn't mean I'm not going to be there tomorrow, but I'm just not here in this moment. There's not enough creativity in the plan to give them the space to go try another thing for the moment, do another thing for the day. So I think being able to allow educators and students to be able to be more creative is an opportunity that I don't think we take advantage of.
No, absolutely, I agree with you. That's what I see in my school every day. I see not every teacher teaches the same. They have very different. Each classroom has different creative approaches, and I really like that.
Do you think that the creativity, especially as a substitute, do you think that the creativity is something that you've learned how to bring in, or did you watch them and bring it in, or? Honestly, both. So when I first started as a substitute teacher, I pretty much just stuck with the plan given because I had no experience. I didn't know how to improvise a curriculum. But after observing a lot of teachers, I can proudly say I can come up with, like for example, just last week, one of the teachers called out sick, so I was subbing for her first grade English class. We didn't have, I think it was first grade English, I'll have to double check, but we didn't have too much of a curriculum except like, here, you can give these activities. So I actually improvised the rest of the classroom. I said, hey, your teacher is not feeling well. How would you guys like to make some get well cards for her? Yeah.
And that's what I had the kids do during, like, say, their free time after they finished their English writing, after they finished their math activity. I would just have them do, like, get well cards. Or, like, I would read to them a story. Like, those are, like, reading them a story, those are things I observed when I was looking at other teachers. Or like I would have, like me and teachers, we always talk about certain students or how our classes go. I would learn from them, actually. Like they would tell me, oh, here's what you can do the next time you're in that situation. Every situation I've been in where I'm like, I'm not too sure what to do, I've learned. Or like if I'm in a situation where I'm not too sure what to do, don't be afraid to ask for help. I'll just go to the next classroom and say, I'll just go to the classroom next door and say, hey, I need some help, is that okay? I think if we had more teachers collaborating together, it would be really awesome. And I think the solutions to creativity are endless.
I wonder if, and this is where we're hopeful to bring in the audience to help us figure some of these things out, to participate in our conversation. I'm wondering the system that's currently in existence, the system that's currently in existence, what type of room do you feel as educators you have to be creative? You have to try different things. You have to be in a different space. Like, what does that look like, right? And how does that feel for you as educators? We'll go to that. We'll go to taking questions in a moment. But I also want to throw out our last solution. We talked a little bit about it before, but Sarah and I were wondering, like, we noticed that there are materials and tools and things that are happening at the public school, and they're just going somewhere. We don't know exactly where they're going. They're going somewhere, right? And we wondered if there was a goodwill for educators, right? Whereas, hey, when you have clothes that you don't really want anymore, you're able to take them to Goodwill. Goodwill becomes this stationary space where other people who may need clothes can go. I'm wondering if we could have systems and organizations and spaces, buildings, places where these types of things happen as well. So those are the 4 solutions that I thought would be helpful in both systems, that they could kind of share amongst one another. I'm not sure if there are any questions. I want to make sure we don't just move forward to you lovely people here in the audience. If you all have any questions for us, or if you have anything to share about your experiences in public versus private school. We can't see because of the light, so you have to say something back. We can't see because of the light.
Anybody have a question?
There was one right over here.
Well, yeah. Oh.
I think I've mentioned this in other sections. In education, in US, we have 50 states, 50 different Department of Eds,
Yes.
50 ways of licensing teachers, 50 ways of how charter schools are governed, how private schools are governed, how public schools are funded, and all that, like all of it, okay? So I think, how do we have more nuanced conversations and know that there are some practices or some ways of how things are done will actually be very differently talked about, or perceived, or funded, and all that, and designed depending on the state.
No, I love that idea, and you're right. I mean, think about how confusing it must be to control, manage, oversee, direct 50 of them. You know, what if, as we talk about solutions, what if there were regional plans, right? Hey, maybe the Midwest schools get together, maybe the Western schools get together, and you know, and maybe it might be a little bit easier to collectively share, so that we don't have so much runover in different classrooms and different systems, whether you're in public or private.
I think, yeah, that's great, because I remember we also talked about, I even believe that the system, the way the education system works right now is so broken that I think we just need a complete overhaul of the system. We need a clean slate. Like, let's push the stop button, push that red button, start over. Maybe the federal government shouldn't even be involved in the public school systems. Maybe just keep it regional. Let the governors of each state handle that. Maybe let the community handle it. Maybe let the city council get involved in that. I don't know, but what I do know is we're here proposing solutions that can work, of course, but I think a lot of us probably agree that it needs a complete overhaul, because we know what the problems are. We can keep talking about the problems are for many years to come, or we can talk about the solutions and actually just get started now. Don't wait 5-10 years from now. Get started now.
The other thing I really want to address, to your point, in nonprofit space, what happens a lot of time is that we have succession plans. One of the things that they talk to you about in a nonprofit is, hey, if you're running a nonprofit and you don't have a succession plan as to what's going to happen if you have to disappear for a month, if you have to disappear for 6 weeks, right? So you're, in the nonprofit space, you're always grooming that next generation of person or people who are going to help lead this. I'm wondering if that's a solution that we could look at and make successful in education, because I feel like so many of the educators, especially I'm from Ohio, and so we have so many amazing educators who have been teaching 20, 30 years. Maybe they don't need to be in the classroom. Maybe they need to be in a governing space, right, to bring that knowledge so that when we break this up in region, we can know how to communicate, because perhaps that's why it's not as successful, because right now we have people who haven't even ever been in a classroom making and dictating policies and stuff.
So it's about also asking the right question, right? I mean, a lot of solutions, 90% of it is defining the problem.
Yep.
And so with education, it is such a complex ecosystem. There is not one solution that works. There are regional things going on. Different states have them. government have funded them, and some funding has gone away. There are
Very
all
away.
sorts of sharing spaces. So, like, almost thinking about what is it that we are trying to solve, right? So, a lot of it has to do with funding. You can't do the work without funding. Okay?
Well,
So, yes, we want to fund it smartly.
Yes.
I'm a school board member. We just went through teacher contracts. And it was a very difficult process, not because we don't love the teachers, but it's the fact that we are bound by the limits of how much we get. So some of the advocacy is not like, well, why don't you fund us more? But what is the government doing? If the government is not the right answer, can the private come in play? But I would say we are having this problem with healthcare right now, right? Government is
Yes.
taking away some funding. And some states, including Minnesota, is saying no matter how much money we raise, it is going to be impossible to raise the kind of money that the government was funding or should be funding.
correct. I think the challenge is when we talk about the system of private school versus public school, we like to call these wicked problems, right? You know, and wicked problems, for those of you who don't know, they're defined by problems that are of such a magnitude, even dumping a bucket of money at it still may not fix it, right? Even if you had the money to pay all of the educators that you wanted to have during your contracts, how would we have gotten the materials? Where would the books have come from? How are we going to be able to set up systems to deliver? We would have still had those types of situations. We would have still had those types of problems. So looking at it as a wicked problem, that's why we have to really look at professional support, right? We need to look at practicing professionals who are willing to come in, to share their knowledge, bring different insights in, being willing and able to participate in a way where we can see what's happening on the other side. I think it's real easy sometimes to be thinking that the grass is greener on the other side, when in all actuality, it might not be greener. They just watered it on Tuesday, and today is Saturday, so it looks better than yours on Monday.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a great one. I want to make sure that we don't go, oh, I can't see you guys out there. There. I kind of can see a shadow.
Oh, do we have a question?
Can you tell us our?
Oh.
Oh, please.
As I was working on my,
Oh, the mic's right over there.
when I was working on my doctoral program, there was a book and that we read that's called Tinkering Toward Utopia, 100 Years of Public School Reform or the Lack Thereof. And it talks about that big system and that all of the things, all of the waves, and we know this, are all political decisions. Junior high, that was a political decision because they felt like those children were being left out. And I like to think about, because we have such a complex system, how do we help the teachers be successful in a complex system? How do we work with the teachers and the
Yes.
leaders to be successful so it doesn't matter about the system? That's the framework. They can be successful anywhere.
I love that.
Anytime.
And what was the name of that book again?
What was the name of the book again?
Tinkering Toward Utopia, 100 Years of Public School Reform or the Lack Thereof. And they've updated it since and have another edition. One of the authors' last name is James.
I love that idea. And that's why when Sarah and I were talking about, you know, how did we want to really address this versus, you know, we didn't want to spend the time complaining because we know these types of things, right? We know all the problems, and there are plenty more
Oh, yeah.
that we didn't even have time to really address. But what would happen if we started talking about solution? What would happen if we took our experiences and began to discuss those experiences to be able to share so that we can come up with better solutions? Because ultimately, it's not the problems, right? It's the way we get up from the problems. It's how we define ourselves after these things happen.
And if we think about being the ripple in the pond, so some of those schools that you work with do the goodwill. that's a ripple in the pond. And then who knows what other school district may pick that up. In a Clayton County School District south of Atlanta, they have clothing closets and food pantries in their elementary schools. And they just were collaborating with one of the local Grady Hospital to actually put in a health center in the public school. They were going to have 3 across the district of health centers because the children were struggling with health care.
Yes,
So-
and it's
Yeah.
that type of thinking that I think needs to be brought back into education, and I really love the idea of educators doing the leading, right?
Absolutely.
I love this idea because I just wonder if we tried it where non-educators were doing it, maybe it's time for the rest of us to try it.
I actually like what you said, because I actually remember I remember the school that was funded by Mark Zuckerberg and his wife, Priscilla Chan. It was called the Primary School in East Palo Alto. I used to work there as a substitute teacher. Something they actually did is give free healthcare to all of their students. I kid you, when you walk in that school, there's an actual dentist chair, and they would provide free dental care
Wow.
and free doctor visits over there at that school. And not just for the students, also for the teachers too. So I think it's those kinds of solutions that can really work. A trend that we're also seeing happening in California is a lot of public school districts are now funding housing. In the city of Mountain View, where I live, they actually have an apartment complex for public school teachers only in Mountain View. And it's like yours, you get a discount, you either get a discount
Yes.
or you get it for free, which means just take it out of your paycheck, and then you can spend the rest of the money on, say, groceries, gas, your healthcare, etc.
I love it. Well, you all, thank you so much for having us here today. We hope that you enjoyed hearing more about solutions that could possibly happen, and we really appreciate you all sticking around for our chat.
Thank you.